Are you ready to take your business to the next level? Every day there are countless books and articles that are published offering the key on how to make your business a success. It's easy to feel overwhelmed trying to keep up and run your business. That's why Deb Creer created the Business Power Hour. Keep up on the latest trends, best practices, and techniques for how to make your business a success. Let the Business Power Hour do the heavy work for you.
Good morning, good morning. I am Deb Creer, and I am passionate about working with professionals to give them the tools that they need to make themselves and their businesses as successful as possible. And as you know, this is my favorite time of the year. We are talking LinkedIn and how we really can and should be using LinkedIn as a professional tool. And as I say every program, every single professional should be on LinkedIn, should be optimizing their use of it. No more, hey, when was the last time I updated my profile type of things. This is something that you really should be using. And today, we're going to be getting into maybe the emotional aspects is the way to put this, because this is so cool. And I can't wait to really talk about this. So please join me in welcoming Susan K. Younger to our program today. Welcome, Susan. How are you doing today?
I'm doing fabulous, and thank you so much for having me here with you today. I really am excited to talk about this tool and how fun it is to work with LinkedIn.
It is. And the funny thing is, we've known each other for several years, and I never knew until I knew about your tool, because I had, of course, used it. And so we're going to talk about that because it's so much fun and so enlightening. But I never knew that you had a way to connect it with LinkedIn. And so this is so cool. So let me tell people a little bit about you, and then we will dive in. So Susan K. Younger, relationship architect, has been working with BANK, and that's an acronym, BANK, methodology since 2015. She has combined her wide backgrounds and various roles as leader, manager, author, coach, and trainer to solve problems, helping others effectively develop interpersonal communication skills important in both business and in life. The Codebreaker AI is a valuable tool, that's what we're going to be talking about, with the LinkedIn extension she has worked with since 2019. Susan started with a degree in architecture and worked with architects in Iowa before moving to Dallas to work with a retail design firm. For more than a decade, she was the store planning director for Broadway Southwest in Arizona. Returning to Dallas in 1995, she worked with design firms, leading teams building and renovating department stores, including those little stores called Macy's and Bloomingdale's. The management of several diverse teams, while held to high expectations in various industries, has given Susan a depth of experience few business leaders acquire. She wrote a book, Simple Living, Simple Food, Life Lessons Learned Dining with Family and Friends, which was published in 2013, and she has been a contributing author to 5 other books on leadership and life. So again, Susan, welcome.
Thank you. It's always funny to hear somebody read your bio and you're like, oh yeah, I did all that.
I did all that. I know it's, and especially the background part, because we kind of forget those things. But it's funny because when I was, when I knew that you were trained as an architect, this makes perfect sense. Because it just flows right into that. But I always like talking to my guests to say, how the heck did you get to where you are today? So tell us a little bit how you discovered that, at least for right now, this is your passion in life.
So, I was in those corporate meetings for years and hearing people argue, and you're looking at them and going, your points of view are not that different.
Right.
You just are saying it in ways that you cannot hear the other person because their value or their point of view seems to be so foreign to you,
right,
that you only are hearing it in your language. And yet I couldn't exactly explain to them how I could see
right,
that they were close together. Well, 7 years ago, I heard Sherry Tree, the creator and founder of the BANK methodology, speak at a conference. And as she described the different points of view of these 4 personality profiles, I'm like, oh my gosh, she's taken what's in my brain intuitively
Mm-hmm.
and created a way to take this message back to corporations.
Mm-hmm.
Now, she did not start with the intent that it would be a business building tool in terms of those relationships. She saw it as a sales tool to increase the way you connected with somebody in a sales conversations to engage them in a yes by speaking to their
Mm-hmm.
values.
Right.
I immediately saw the relationship side of this and was sure that this was going to be something I would work with the rest of my life
Mm-hmm.
because it would help so many people break down the barriers between them in a conversation.
Mm-hmm. Right. And it is something, and we've talked about this. It is so simple,
So simple.
but it is so enlightening. And we've all done how many varieties of personality tests, right? And I'm an extrovert. Ugh, big surprise, right? Um, and all of the various things that many times when we started a job, they made us take those tests. I have no idea why, because they never ever talk about it again. I'm not even sure that my supervisors were given the results. It was just kind of one of those HR checkoff things, right? You took the whatever's tests, and my thing with those tests was, especially when I was taking them for employment purposes, I always thought, what do they want me to say? Or what is it better for me to say? Works well in teams. Yeah, that's probably something that they really want me to say, whether I do or not. All of those various things. And the thing with the bank tool is it really, as I said, simple, easy peasy, easy peasy. I took it again today. 3 minutes, maybe. I mean, it's and I got a very detailed report, which I have not read in detail. I kind of skimmed through it for the program, but it's so simple. But both times that I have taken it now, I've read the results and gone, "Yippers, that's me." And it's a little, there's some things where I'm thinking, well, it could be this or that, and I mean that's the way with all of these things. But let's really delve into it. So, what is the bank code?
Now, the bank code has 4 personalities: blueprint, action, nurturing, and knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
And each one of them is based on a self selected value base that she created in a reverse engineered method. So we jokingly say it's exactly the same thing, only totally different than all the others,
Mm-hmm.
because it's that 4 personality base that Hippocrates created, thousands and thousands of years ago.
Mm-hmm.
However, she did not use psychology. She used what she calls biology, and that's spelled B-U-Y. Why you buy
Why do you
into,
buy things? Mm-hmm.
right? Why do you buy things? Because she was looking at it as a selling tool. I immediately started calling it a buy-in, because when you talk about a conversation, you could truly call it a sales conversation, but really you're engaging somebody and you want them to engage with you when you're talking with them.
Right.
In a meeting, you want them to buy into an idea. If you're talking about somebody doing a task on a job, you are asking them to buy into
Right.
what they are going to do with you or for you.
Mm-hmm.
So it's important to understand the values from which they make that decision. When you look at the blueprint, we talk about that being the person in the box, the person who is always looking for the checklist. They are like, the rules are meant to be followed.
Right.
They're the people who are looking for the tradition, stability, structure. They want the systems and the process to be defined. And in working in an architectural office, I was always confused when somebody who was really creative would turn to me and say, well, how do you want me to approach this? Give me my checklist. And I'm like, going, what do you need a checklist for? Now, my blueprint is my lowest code. People would have thought I would have been high in blueprint because as an architectural designer,
I mean, there's a lot of things that the rules absolutely have to be followed.
However, I didn't do them just to follow the rules. I did them for values based in another code. I'm going to kind of go through them sequentially. The blueprint. Now, action man, these are your movers, your shakers, your
Mhm.
millionaire makers. These are the people that show up late and they go, the party's starting
I'm
because I'm here.
here. Da 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 da. Right?
Meanwhile, the blueprint showed up 30 minutes early
Mhm. Right,
because
because
they
they
didn't
plan ahead. Mhm.
they needed to plan ahead. They needed to make sure they knew how the seating was going to work. They needed to be secure and comfortable.
Right.
So this action person shows up and they're looking for freedom, flexibility. They want to know that it's going to be a win for them. Who
Mhm.
else is here? How cool do I look? And I hope
Mhm.
you notice how cool I look.
Mhm. Right,
These
right. Mhm.
are all about all those things that we call A list.
Mhm.
And A list ends up working very well. That is colored a red card because,
Mhm.
they're red hot. They
Right.
want the red carpet,
Mhm. Right, yeah.
all of those
They
types of
might be red-haired.
yes, on occasion. Yes, my dear, since that is your first code. Absolutely. And
Mhm.
we both share the fact that blueprint is our last code.
Mhm.
So we are not looking for that list to figure out what we're doing. We're just going to go for it.
Right. Mhm.
Action is my second code. So
Mhm.
where others will say, well, gee, you just blew this off and went and did this. I'm like going, yeah, I need the
Mhm.
fun.
Yeah.
You know, it may not be my first code, but it's still very strong for me.
Mhm. Mhm.
My leading code is the nurturing, and
Mhm.
that's your second code. So you and I have an easy time because we can bounce back and forth between
Right.
those first two codes.
Mhm.
It makes conversation for us something we can, as we say,
Mhm.
dance around,
Mhm.
because we don't stay in that box. Even as a blueprint, you don't
Mhm.
stay in that box.
Mhm.
The nurturing values are all about the connection. These are the people who
Right.
come at you arms open, ready to hug you, whether you
Mhm.
want a hug or not.
Right. You're like,
You
okay.
know, I've got a friend whose blueprint and nurturing is her last code, and she is backing up so fast from
Right.
people.
She's got her bag in front of her. Mhm. Mhm.
She's really, really friendly because she's blueprint action.
Mhm.
But she's like, don't get too close. I haven't
Mhm.
approved it yet.
Mhm.
She hasn't vetted you off her
Right.
list.
Mhm.
But to me, it's that authentic relationship. How do
Mhm.
I build that personal connection?
Mhm.
Nurturing are looking at you eye to eye. They want that deep conversation. They want to get involved in your team. They want
Right.
to know who is your team,
Mhm.
how are you playing with them, and they also want to know what are you contributing to the world? How are
Mhm.
you contributing? Is there a charity that you support? How do they create that harmony?
Mhm.
How do they look at the harmony in the ethics even and the
Mhm.
morality of what's
Right.
going on?
Mhm.
So we talk about those having that heart of gold, and so the
Mhm.
color is a very golden
Mhm.
yellowy
Right.
and like a sunflower,
Mhm.
bright, bright and shiny. And then there's the knowledge, and the knowledge card is green.
Mhm.
Now, we frequently say it's green with envy because these are frequently the smartest people in the room.
Mhm.
But that action person is up there standing up going,
Right.
hey,
And
look
the and
what
the
I'm
the, the
creating.
knowledge people are like,
Woo!
"Excuse me, I'm the one who put this together."
Exactly.
Mhm.
But they are standing to the back because they need to take in all the information in front of them. They
Mhm.
are about learning, intellect. These are the people we say you do not sell to them because it takes forever.
Right. Because they're gonna analyze it to death.
Yes. And you have lots of salespeople who say, I don't want to work with them because they're too hard.
Mhm.
What they're ignoring is that sometimes these can be the easiest to sell to because
Right.
you say, here's the information,
Mhm.
vet it yourself,
Right. Mhm.
and I'll reach out to you. I
Mhm.
don't need to spend a lot of time with you
Mhm.
because you will vet it yourself. If you
Mhm.
give them enough information for them to vet, they can make a
Mhm.
decision much
Mhm.
faster than most people think.
Mhm.
They are about the research and development they do. They want to learn from experts. And in a networking environment, if you don't have somebody speaking at the front of the room that is considered a viable expert,
Mhm.
they don't want to go.
Right.
They want to be in a room with the smart people and they
Mhm.
want to have those really it's interesting in a group where you will have knowledge people seeming to hold off on the side
Mhm.
and then somebody brings up a really technical high deep
Mhm.
question and all of a sudden these people are just like all over this topic
Right.
and the rest of the group is like what happened?
Mhm.
How'd they get ignited?
Mhm.
It's the knowledge, it's that
Mhm.
information, it's that universal truth that pulls
Right.
them.
Mhm. Right. You know,
So she literally let the people self-select and
mhm,
tell themselves as a group what were their values. And that's how
right.
she defined it.
Hmm.
So,
And for folks who are watching or listening, this is easy peasy, folks. You go to mybankcode.com and you can do this for free. There's no charge to find out what your bank code is. And that's what I love about this because, it's so much, and you get the report. I mean, there's all sorts of good juicy stuff that you get with absolutely no charge. And you go through and as Susan said, it's the 4 cards. And it's got the values on it, and you just put them in order as to what's important to you, and then it goes from there. And I find this so interesting because I did this morning, and so mine was ANKB. So action, nurture, knowledge, blueprint. And it gets and I it's Susan and I were talking before the program. I go back and forth on action and nurturing as to which is more important. And blueprint is funny because I do like to follow rules. I mean, there are times where it's like, no, this is the way it needs to be done. But usually that's because that's the easier way to do it. I tell people, no, no, we got to do it that way. That's the rule. I don't have to convince them. I don't have to do anything. I'm just like, no, this is the way it has to be done. Right? So it's not that I'm, yeah,
you.
yeah. It's the easier path. So you can get this information, and the what I love is that if you at least have a glimmer of what someone else is, that starts showing you how to deal with them, both with your communications, all of those things. What's even better is if they actually take this test themselves. So talk to us about how, when you know someone else's bank code, or at least have a pretty good idea of what you think it is, why do we need to know that?
You need to know that because most of the time your conversation is based on your values.
Right.
So when you're talking to somebody else, if you know their values,
Mm-hmm.
you can shape the conversation to engage them for a yes, because you are now talking to the things that are important to them instead of the viewpoint that's important to you.
Mm-hmm.
So when I talk to somebody who's in action, I need to have that high energy. I need to acknowledge who they are and the power that they bring with them. If I'm talking to a blueprint, I need to give them the security and structure to know that there is minimal risk in what we're getting involved in.
Mm-hmm.
That puts them at ease so that they know they can listen to what needs to be done and that it's going to be a low risk venture for them to get involved.
Mm-hmm.
So you talk to people in a way that engages the values they hold dear, and they are much faster at accepting what you were looking for them to do to
Mm-hmm.
engage.
I love
And
it.
when you look at messages that come in on LinkedIn, think of the
Mm-hmm.
time somebody sends a message to you and you go, man, that just wasn't talking to me.
Mm-hmm. Right. Or I don't even understand it.
I don't understand
Mm-hmm.
what they're asking me.
Mm-hmm.
Those are telling you they did not speak your code.
Mm-hmm.
You know. The neat thing about this that is different from other profiles is, as a subscriber to the system, when the person cracks their code, like if you just crack it at my bank code, it goes to corporate.
Mm-hmm.
However, I have a subscription in that after the my bank code is the / get
Mm-hmm.
result. That means that I will then get notified that you cracked your code.
Ah. Mm-hmm.
And it will tell me to go look for the sales report that says this is the best way to talk to Deb.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to honor her and respect her values,
Mm-hmm.
you will talk about those things that are exciting to an action.
Mm-hmm.
You will engage with the nurturing side that she's interested in, but you will avoid the things in the blueprint
Mm-hmm.
that would be the things that she's like going, don't spend your time on that. That's going to
Right.
bore me.
Mm-hmm.
And you will understand that if something is stressing you, you will bring in the keys points of knowledge. Like you and I, when we get stressed,
Mm-hmm.
we ask questions.
Right.
We want to know more information than we
Mm-hmm.
would otherwise because
Mm-hmm.
we are going to vet it if we don't trust it.
Mm-hmm.
Action and nurturing both work from that intuitive kind of, I emotionally decide to do this and I don't need a lot of stuff behind it, but as
Mm-hmm.
knowledge is our stress code.
Mm-hmm.
If something doesn't ring true for us intuitively, we turn to questions we turn to give me more information. You're not going to push me into a decision. And that stress code, some people will say, oh, that turns you off. No, frequently that's the one you pull forth when you're under stress, and you become more that. So you start to listen to somebody's tone and how they are coming at you to figure out, oh, they're under stress. They're asking me more questions than they would normally. I need to back off from how I might have sat with them and talked about something in a very frivolous way and go deeper into the information they're looking for. It then allows you to connect with them in a way that is really honoring where they're at in that moment. And I love the fact that this is not, I'm putting you in a box and you are always there. This is the code you really dance with. And we will, in a conversation, say, oh, I hear your blueprint coming out. What more detail do you need? Here's the pieces of that I need to answer for you.
Right. And what as a marketing person, we're always telling people, you have to communicate with folks how they want to get the message, and then of course, we put our own spin on it. But, this makes it really simple. So, I mean, the easy thing is think about who your target audience is and what kind of their overall traits might be. So you might not, you can't speak to every single person en masse. I mean, you have to figure out, okay, this, like, say architects are going to be much higher on blueprint knowledge because they are factually oriented people. They just, that's what they, they have to go by. If you're dealing more with creative types, then you're probably going to want more of the acting and nurturing type of communications. And we see that all the time where, say you send an email to somebody and you get crickets or whatever. And it's because you didn't do it in their language, in a lot of, I mean, we've got that old saying, you're speaking Greek. Sometimes that really is what's happening.
Yeah. And the beauty of this is you start to be able to put a little bit of everything in at times. So in a conversation, when you're speaking to a group, you're going to have some of everybody.
Right.
But you may know that group, based on who they are, is more one code than another. So you add more of those codes to it, but you still, as we would say, drip enough of the other pieces in to make everybody feel that they've been seen and heard.
Right.
And that makes a world of difference. And what I love about this is it doesn't become male or female, that it really becomes across all countries, codes, genders. It's very much about your values. You can have a nurturing man and you can have a blueprint woman. These things, they take them on in their own way, but it does help you to look at how are they approaching that conversation. And it's helped relationships where all of a sudden they're going, oh, no wonder I've been having trouble getting my husband, wife, or partner to do anything, because I'm approaching it from where I'm at and I'm not hearing them. And conversations in teams are amazing because people start to go, oh, wait a minute, I've been saying that person's value isn't important because they don't look at it the way I do. And now I can see what they bring to the team. And if I would talk to them a little bit differently from their language, I will then engage them in a way that we do something faster, get it done deeper, and we really get a result that serves our clients as well as ourselves as a team.
So, and certainly with much less frustration.
Much less frustration.
It's funny. I was remembering a time when I was giving a presentation on how to use LinkedIn to a group who had been unemployed. And so, I do my typical presentation with lots of stories, lots of anecdotes, lots of, and the big thing was I kept saying we a lot. Now, turns out that the group was, they were unemployed, but they were all engineers. And I had a heckler in the crowd. Never been heckled before or since, but I had a heckler in the crowd. And so the first thing that he heckled me about, and I mean, back row person, gotta love those people, right? So he's in the back row and he says, why do you keep saying we You are not an engineer. And didn't miss a beat. I said, you're right. I'm terribly sorry. And my brain actually, let me adapt to saying you pretty quickly. I mean, it figured that out. But, then a couple more times he heckled me and he said, stop telling stories. I want the facts. I want numbers, all of those things. And it was funny because I could see the other people nodding, but of course they were annoyed at him. And ultimately I asked him to leave because he was getting so disruptive that I asked him to leave and the people applauded. So, but I, right then I thought and I actually apologized to the group. I said, I am sorry. I should have included more. And I said, and I can do that. I said, my slides might not quite match. I said, but I will start talking numbers and things. So that's where, like I said, just knowing kind of overall what I think the group might want, it helps with how you're trying to communicate with them.
What's beautiful when we talk LinkedIn and the artificial intelligence that was created in 2019,
right,
is that all of a sudden with that, you were no longer doing what we call speed coding to guess what somebody is. You actually had the ability to run their profile through the AI and it would tell you to what code that was written. So if I got a message from somebody like I did in 2020 from a guy in India, now his message to me was short, sweet in LinkedIn. I ran his profile through the AI. I ran his message through the AI. I pulled up the company he represents, did their web page through the AI, pulled up the people that were listed as the lead people in that company, ran all of them through the AI. Everything was knowledge-based company, but there was something in his message that spoke action. And when I looked at the history of what he had done and where he had been, I thought, I had a feeling this is the action sales guy for a knowledge company. So my response to him played to that action and what information did the company need. We ended up with an hour and a half conversation.
How fun.
Because he felt seen for who he was, as well as me recognizing the type of business that he was representing and where he needed to try and take.
Right.
Had I just, quickly replied to the fact, oh, it's a knowledge company, I just need to give them blah, blah, blah. I know that I would have lost him immediately because he was action, even though the company wasn't.
Right. So let's really delve into this. So that's the Codebreaker AI part of what we want to talk about. And there is a fee to this, and that might change over the course of time. So, it could be different today than it is, and so just, folks, just check that out for yourself. It's very reasonable. I looked at it and went, oh, okay. So, you were telling me this morning that you ran my LinkedIn profile through it. And so when I did my profile, again, I got ANKB. Right. So when you put my LinkedIn profile through Codebreaker, what did you find?
Nurturing, action, blueprint, knowledge. So your first two flipped and your last two flipped.
Right. And so, that's just fascinating to me as to why that would be.
I think, as you said earlier, when you look at the action and nurture, you see them as being very close for you. When you're reaching out to people to let them know you want to help them, that's a nurturing activity.
Right. And I tell people I'm a master connector.
Yes, that sort of connection and master connector and really helping them to use the tools is that camaraderie piece of nurturing. So that's why your profile shows up as you're somebody who is there more in service to the community than about lauding your own abilities. But you still have a lot of action in it to say, but I'm the one who's going to get it done. It's not going to be a dilly-dally action. But then you also have put enough structure into it so that they know in a situation of stress, you've created stability, structure, and low risk for them. They don't need a lot of knowledge information. They don't need the deep learning in your profile to understand how you would be of service to them.
Right.
So it makes perfect sense to me that what you have done is written as to who you're looking to help.
without getting far from who I want to be.
Exactly.
Because that's the other thing is, I don't care where we are, online, in person, any of those things. What's critical is to be authentic to yourself.
Exactly.
And so by just flipping those, the ones that I think are important, I mean, it's not like I did major changes, and I had
No.
no idea. I mean, when you and I talked about this morning, it was just like, holy cow. And it made perfect sense because it kept who I was
Yes.
while still reaching out in the way I wanted to speak to who I want to talk to. And so I love this. I think this is just so cool.
Yeah. And and the great thing about the AI tool, and when you're working with it, it also has an opportunity for you to frame the message back
Mm-hmm,
to
mm-hmm,
see if you are speaking to their code.
mm-hmm,
So when somebody sends me a message and I put it in the AI,
mm-hmm,
then there's a button that says, hey, push this button to see how your response is.
mm-hmm.
You can drop your response in, and then it'll decipher your
Ah,
response to
so you
say,
might have been needing a blueprint response, but you wrote a nurturing one.
yes. And from your point of view, you're like, well, I thought I put a lot of detail in there that blueprint would be looking for. And I
Mm-hmm,
thought I defined the low risk.
mm-hmm,
No, you still wrote it with the
mm-hmm.
nurturing. I care about you more than I care about the details.
Right. And they went, and let's be honest. I mean, we've seen that happen. Either somebody,
Absolutely.
you've crafted this great thing, and they look at you like, so.
And you don't have online, you don't have that immediate
Right.
response from
Mm-hmm.
somebody. So the beauty of this tool is it really helps you to start to hear how you sound in a way through the words.
Mm-hmm.
I also love the fact that the 12 values, there's literally buttons on the side of this.
Mm-hmm.
It gives you the tips and sale points.
Mm-hmm.
It gives you the expectations of how they will show up.
Mm-hmm.
And it takes those 12 words and gives you an expanded definition that we call the power scripting piece
Mm-hmm.
of it. So when we do trainings, we literally will spend a week diving into the values, the likes, the dislikes, all the different things that would show up if you don't have the tool in front of you so that you start to identify them on your own.
Right.
But when you start to write with it, it's still amazing how you're like going, crap, I am far from
Missed
getting
that
this.
one. Mm-hmm.
And other times, the more you use the AI tool, you start going, oh, I am starting to understand this. And
Mm-hmm.
I will literally have a Word document open on the side, and I'll take a line at a time or a paragraph at a
Mm-hmm.
time and drop it in
Mm-hmm.
to see if it landed the way I wanted it to. And how do I need to tweak the next paragraph? Because I
Right.
may want all four codes in
Mm-hmm.
this reply.
Right. Mm-hmm.
I just need it to still ring higher to
Mm-hmm.
one of the codes than the
Right.
others.
Yeah, you might want to catch their attention with, say, the knowledge. Then you're
Yes,
going, then you're, and you're going to end with action. And I'm not meaning that as call to action. You're wanting them to take that action.
yes, for themselves, whatever
Mm-hmm.
that is, not necessarily coming to you, but how
Mm-hmm.
do they address the question they've
Right.
presented to you?
Mm-hmm.
And it really does become this thing that we we will spend time devi- digging deep into a
Mm-hmm.
message at points because we're going, wow, how can I make this
Mm-hmm.
a message that somebody really wants to read?
Right.
And it's it's uh it's been amazing to me how quickly you start to find that you don't want to open anything without the AI. And
Mm-hmm.
I've got clients who have said, I don't need all the other stuff, but I can't live without that AI
Mm-hmm.
tool because between LinkedIn and the emails that they run through it,
Mm-hmm.
it really helps them to understand the people they are connecting with
Right.
in a way that they feel truly
Mm-hmm.
honors them.
Right.
So search companies that do search firm type work for information
Mm-hmm.
or for staffing are going, this is a great tool
I
for
bet. Mm-hmm.
me to connect with.
Mm-hmm.
And salespeople are saying this shortened my sales cycle.
Mm-hmm.
We've got just 2 weeks ago, we did a conference for a chiropractor who,
Mm-hmm.
when he first heard Sherry speak, he says, well, that's a neat idea, but I'm already closing at 80%.
Oh,
And
that's not bad.
he says, so why would I need that? And she goes, well, what's the other 20% worth to you?
Yeah.
Now,
And maybe the other 20% are actually the higher ticket people.
so, he was like, okay, you got me. Because he was high action and she just threw action back at him. He signed up. 6 months later, he called her and he says, all right, will you speak at my next conference? And she goes, well, tell me what happened. He says, you know, my closing rate went from 80% to 90%.
Wow.
He says, but the bigger deal was the time it took me to close a client went from an hour and a half conversation to 30 minutes.
Right.
He says,
so he actually could do 3 in the time that used to take him 1. And that's the number that, that the blueprint people like.
And also the action person, because I now have free time, whether I want to put it into business or put it into extracurricular fun.
Right.
The nurturing, I've helped more people. The knowledge, these are the statistics that I needed to know for this to be valuable.
Right.
And when you can do that with other industries, real estate, one of the guys that's a real estate agent has been teaching other agents in his office, and their close rate went from 30% to 80% in the office as everybody started using this tool.
Right.
It's amazing how this tool helps people who thought they were good at something become extraordinary, and thought people who felt like they weren't connecting previously to feeling seen and heard and understood by others.
Right. And as we were talking, I was thinking about LinkedIn again on how, especially initial communications, when somebody connects. And it's funny because several of us have this thing of, where we, we get this ick that we think is ick, right? And so we've got a little online group and we're like, oh my God. And it's the people who jump from, hi, how are you? It's great to connect, to, I want to sell you the best thing in the world. And to me, who wants to build that relationship, I see them as being incredibly spammy. They're thinking we need to provide you with knowledge and information. They could care less about the relationship part. And I immediately go, well, I'm not going to read it. I'm not even going to connect with him, especially if they sent that in their request to connect. Hey, we need to connect because I've got this great tool. And I'm like, nope.
And a big part of that is them understanding that they are losing customers, and they are doing that old standard. How many no's does it take to get to a yes?
Spray and pray.
Yes. Instead of understanding that sales is a people game more than it is a numbers game.
Right.
And the reason it's become a numbers game is because of that. You hit too many people with the wrong message, so you're losing them.
Right. Well, and not only that, we're going ew, ew, and telling other people ew, ew, right?
You lose their referrals as well as the opportunity to do business with them. I mean, there have been people I've connected with and I'm like, I'm not going to do business with you, but I love what you stand for, and I'll be happy to refer you. And people forget that sometimes that referral can be a way bigger deal.
Yeah. I might not need to buy X, but I'm happy to tell my friends to do it.
Yes. Or I'm happy to connect you with that business you didn't have any connection to, but you didn't realize I did.
Right. And of course, we're all salespeople, and I love it. Anytime I have a person on my program who trains people to be salespeople, we always talk about the fact that we all go, I don't want to do sales, right? Every one of us, and of course, if we are in business, we are in sales, we better sell our business. And we either get caught in the cut and paste method, right? Which is what a lot of these people have done. Or this is the way it works. Or more importantly, in a lot of cases, this is what someone has told me I have to do, especially if you are an employee. They've given you the template. They have said, this is what you do. And and I don't care, if you're, a franchisor, we've had a lot of those on the program, things like that. And yes, that information is great, but you again need to put your own twist on it. I about said spin, and I think spin is a bad word. So we want to put a twist on it.
You want to show your uniqueness.
Right.
You want to show them that you see their uniqueness. And I think that's the difference, in that a lot of people are like, I'm unique. I think you are all alike. Instead
because
of going,
I'm the action, right? Yeah.
yeah. But I see it even with the blueprints, who are like, this is exactly what everybody needs.
Right.
Instead of being the understanding that there are others out there that need it from a different point of view.
And again, the big thing about this is it saves time. And, because rather than, sending, say, 30 requests to connect on LinkedIn, just randomly, yada, 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 and putting whatever in there, and maybe getting one or two, if you had truly focused that time on getting the right 5,
oh yeah,
then you're going to get those 5, as opposed to 28 rejections. Did I do my math right? I forgot what my original number was. 30. Yeah. So and so you want, spending the time to get the right 5. And of course that's the hard part, because people always want to get as many as possible. But the many are not that, that I'm always harping on the fact that it is quantity, not quality. So you want to get those right ones. And it might initially take a little bit longer, because you have to research them. But again, you're researching them to be contacting them with the right message. So you've sped up that process ultimately in actually connecting with them and maybe doing business with them.
Right. You start to see, we jokingly talk about, is your avatar, what's the bank code of your avatar?
Right.
One of the gals the other day was saying she's nurturing an action. And she went back after she was introduced to this and ran the code of all of her past clients. She says, I never stopped to think about the fact that they were primarily knowledge, and they needed the clarity and service that she provided.
Right.
And she says, they came to me because they were referred to me by somebody else who was not knowledge, but was nurturing, that could tell them I was a trusted resource.
But then they needed that expertise.
They needed her expertise. However, she was writing messages to that action and nurture because that's who she was, and that's who she thought she was connecting with. And she says, when I learned I needed to direct my message to a greater knowledge aspect, it was so much easier to find my right client.
Right.
And we don't stop to think about, why did I succeed with this person? What about them made them my ideal client?
Right. One of the things that we talked about before the program was, when you run a bank, when you run the AI on somebody and on their LinkedIn profile, and it's way different than what they think. Many times that's because either someone else has written their profile, and we do that service. So now, see, this is really making me think, oh, we need to add a level to this, and so they put in, again, a lot of times the writer puts in what they think is important, may or may not be, or more importantly, it might be that it's a team. So a sales team who have, similar messaging, because corporate has said, these are the things you need to talk about.
Our 5 points.
And you can have that messaging in there. You just phrase it differently, because again, you need to have your authentic personality still in there.
Yes. And you want to have the authentic personality of who you're trying to connect with. So it needs to share in a way that represents both.
Right.
So that they still feel secure that you're going to show up as who you are, and respect them for who they are, in a way that they don't feel like, wait a minute, that message made me think I was seen, but you, in your day-to-day actions, your day-to-day languaging, aren't talking to me anymore. And I'm not feeling seen and heard here.
Right.
it's important to make it integral to you on so many different levels that you can engage with those people in that.
Right.
And that's what's great about a tool that you can use, you know, and so many other profile exercises are a subscription of one. What I love about ours is it's a monthly subscription, and if you ran it a million times, you don't get charged.
Right.
So it's
It's
that
one or a
use
million or however many.
use it and use it widely
Right.
to your success at a really reasonable rate.
Right.
So
Right.
that's kind of the fun for me with it.
Yeah, and it's interesting as you and I have been talking about this. I was, thinking we're kind of still because you and I are high action and nurturing. It's been a lot
Yeah,
of our messaging, and our
exactly.
knowledge and our blueprint people might have gone. And so I'm looking at your key points. And so here's one of the things that you provided to me. Forbes called Codebreaker AI the future of sales, and it accurately predict buying behavior in nanoseconds. So those of you who need knowledge and blueprint, Forbes thinks this is pretty cool. And I'm not getting a penny off of this. There's nothing that I'm getting from this. But the other thing is, the United Nations thought this was pretty cool. So tell us about that.
So when they were creating the AI, because as you know, we've had the tool of bank code for 20 years ago when Sherry first created it. But when we were trying to develop the AI and develop the technical side, she was invited to speak at the UN's AI for Good conference in May of 2019. And at that point, the tool wasn't openly out to the world. Forbes had written the article in March. This was now in May, and she was there with one of the technicians who actually used to work for IBM and on the creation of Watson, the computer.
Right.
Who was a technical advisor to us. So we've had some pretty amazing.
If you need knowledge and blueprint, they're there.
They're there. And anyway, they were going up with the phone and interviewing somebody on a conversation, handing them the 4 cards, and the 4 cards they hand them, and the guy sorts his 4 cards and says, "This is what my code is." While he spoke, they recorded his presentation, and sure enough, the AI was matching his code to what he picked as his cards. And they really wanted to see that this was an AI that had the emotional intelligence to respect others. It wasn't just looking for data about how much money or any of those things. It was really looking at the emotional connection, the empathy involved. And what I love is it's continuing to learn and expand.
Right.
So when it first came out, it could only match the first code. Now it's up to matching the first and second code. It's continuing to expand and learn as well. And it's great to have something that is AI for good, not just AI for the sake of how fast and how much to make this happen.
Right.
We really are about a community that makes people matter, and one world, one language by engaging with them in who they are. The code crack on site, when you go to the code crack, is in 30 languages already.
Wow.
We're in 100 countries. The reports come out in 6 languages. So there are 6 different languages that somebody can download their sales report or anything. And what's fun is when somebody overseas that doesn't speak English cracks their code, the report I get and the message I get does not come in my language, it comes in theirs, which tells me I then need to translate it into English. But I love the fact that it shows up with respect for who they are.
Right.
And ask me to change it to English for myself instead of showing up in English for me and asking them to translate.
Right. Yeah, that makes me curious from a cultural aspect.
Yes.
Are there, is everybody everywhere just kind of across the board? Or are there certain cultures that tend to have more dominant traits?
Yes, absolutely. Cultures do have more dominant traits. And you find that in, we also will track, if you look, it'll sometimes say, what country are you from?
Right.
We've cracked over 250,000 codes internationally,
Mm-hmm.
and we are trying to decipher, does a country have a code? You
Mm-hmm.
find German and Netherlands, Japan tend to be a little more
Mm-hmm.
blueprint. Uh, and I recognized it because when I first was introduced to bank, I was working for an architectural firm.
Mm-hmm.
I was doing consulting work with them. So I was getting to deal with all the young architects and designers. And that was fun to be able to look at them and say, oh, if I change my languaging, I can get them to understand why I'm asking them to do a
Mm-hmm.
task they don't like. But what I found was the company that acquired this architectural firm had a very blueprint structure,
Mm-hmm.
infrastructure things. They would start a meeting by going, the fire exits are here.
They were the airplane people. Do, 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 do,
Yeah.
do, right?
And the architects, because they were doing design things for like Neiman's and high-end department
Mm-hmm.
stores, were very much into we just want it beautiful and we don't care what it costs.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And they're looking around like, what the heck does that have to do with our meeting?
Mm-hmm.
You could just see that these two were going to be butting heads as companies because they weren't speaking the same language to begin with. And it was interesting to see how that came out in different memos about stuff at times, that you could see companies were different. And yeah, so a lot of the Germans are a much more blueprint structure too. So you do start to see it in different ways. So, yeah.
I love it. And it really does help you to know yourself better.
Yeah.
So I was reading through my report, and it's, one of the things that tells me you like it when people. And so, for me, it says you like it when, and now some of these I do find a little humorous, but then when I think about it, I'm like, yeah. So you like it when people, so Deb, you like it when people know celebrities, business executives, and other high net worth individuals. Well, my target audience are C-suite
Yeah.
individuals. Okay.
Exactly.
So I might not want to know Kim Kardashian. I don't want to know Kim Kardashian, but I might want to know the CEO of a company that's worked with her. I like it when people wear or carry high-end fashion accessories. Not sure about that because I really don't know what high-end fashion accessories are. But I do, if I look at a gentleman in a nice suit, or a woman with pretty jewelry. So that might be that in there.
Yeah.
Drive a luxury vehicle. I guess I like a Mercedes better than a Toyota. Okay, um, and I'm only reading some of these. Greet you with enthusiasm. Okay, I like that. I might not want to be embraced, especially right now, in a big bear hug, but yeah. Convey a sense of urgency. Let's get to it. Come on, let's do it. And introduce. Now, here's a biggie. I like it when people introduce me to others within their network. Ding, 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 ding. Right?
Yeah.
That's. Mhm,
Yeah.
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 And I don't like it when people have low energy and are not engaging. I get bored. I'm like, whatever.
Exactly.
And I mean, there's tons of reasons why they're like that. But I'm like, yeah, whatever. Or more importantly, fail to capture my attention. Okay, I am the person that goes squirrel. So you need to do something to catch my attention. But I'm going through these because I'm also thinking it's not that I want to avoid those things. And sometimes you do. But I'm also thinking, okay, I need to remember that because of that, it's my thing and not theirs. And so how do I need to adjust to that?
Yeah. So I'm going to read you I've got your sales report open.
Okay.
And what it tells me is your business mindset.
Mm-hmm.
If they're making a difference, there's no shame in running a high profile competitive business.
Mm-hmm.
They are typically leaders with a heart based mission and an insatiable drive to make millions. Notice there's that heart based and
Mm-hmm.
still money making.
Right. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Absolutely.
For me.
There's
Mm-hmm.
no judgment in any of this.
Mm-hmm.
This is strictly the fact on this is frequently what you would see in somebody who is action followed by nurturing. They serve others by offering support and they are self-motivated to lead everyone to success.
Mhm.
That is exactly what you do. You
Mhm.
lead them to success.
Yep.
If there's an opportunity to have fun while contributing to a worthy cause,
Oh,
they will
yeah.
jump
I'm
on it
there.
and
Mhm.
get involved and get excited.
Mhm.
So those sort of things tell me how to make sure I am embracing
Mhm.
you in activities that
Mhm.
would be fun and exciting,
Mhm.
still have a
Mhm.
bottom line impact.
Right. Right. Oh my gosh, Susan, we've only got 5 minutes left, and we truly have just scratched the surface on this, and so I can't wait to talk about this again. I think it would be really fun if if people listening would do their bank code and let us know, because I think we could have a great discussion on that. To really be able to talk about it. But it's so critical in your communications with people to know what you are and what they are in a pretty simple way.
Yeah.
So tell people a little bit more about how they find you and the services that you provide.
So you can connect with me at LinkedIn. It's Susan K. Younger.
Mhm.
Uh, if you want to crack your code, it's the my bank code // I can never remember which exactly
Slash.
one it
I just say slash.
is. Get results as one word. And
Mhm.
when you do that, then it comes to me so that I can specifically
Mhm.
make sure that I've got your report.
Okay.
Otherwise, it goes into a big corporate funnel and it's not as, it doesn't
Mhm.
give me the opportunity
Right. Mhm.
to reach back out to you and say,
Mhm.
hey, let's talk about any
Right.
questions you've
And
got.
that's the link also. If I go to your website, it takes me to that specific bank code page.
Absolutely. SKYounger.com. And I will tell you, my website is probably the least updated of anything I have. Um, because
Because you're that nurturing action, and your website's further down the list.
yes, and it's also the sort of thing that I'm either on Zooms and people get my contact. I mean, if you want, they can text me. I
Mhm.
do 214-677-7109.
Mhm.
Send me a thing and say, hey, give me an actual link on my phone so I can go do it from my phone
Right.
because they can do it from their phone.
Oh yeah, I mean, you really are just picking between 4 cards,
It's
and so it's not a lot of reading. And in fact, let me just read one here real quick. So since I'm action, so my values, and I have to push up my glasses here to be able to read these.
I do the same,
I
hon.
know, this getting older thing. Like, okay, so the values for an action person are freedom, flexibility, spontaneity, action, opportunity, excitement, attention, stimulation, competition, winning, fun, and image. And anybody who knows me just went, mm-hmm. Now, maybe not image, but there's still a certain way that I look, and it's also my online presence too, things
Yes,
like that.
yes. And
So,
see, for the nurturing side, for me, it's that relationship
mhm,
authenticity,
mhm,
personal growth, significance, teamwork, involvement, community, charity, ethics, harmony, morality, and contribution.
mhm. Right.
And
I'm a little bit more wanting the spotlight.
yeah,
Mhm,
and I'll take the spotlight if I've had a great relationship,
mhm.
but I'm not the one who's going to push somebody out of the way to be the
Right.
star.
Mhm,
But what it calls me on the action is flexibility, spontaneity, and fun.
mhm. Right. Oh yeah.
And I do
And
the pretty things, but I have never been somebody who wants to wear the designer label.
right.
I would rather have it
Mhm,
be fabulously fit
mhm,
and shine the light on
mhm.
me instead of somebody else's
Right.
logo.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I've been known to cut logos off.
Yeah.
And Blueprint was bottom for both of us, right?
Yes.
And so Blueprint is stability, structure, systems, planning, processes, predictability, responsibility, duty, rules, credentials, titles, and tradition.
Yeah.
And let's be honest, we need those people. We're not in any way saying that that's a bad thing.
And I got nothing against any of these. I like all of these. They just aren't what drives me.
Right.
I create stability when I
Hmm.
make the company I keep
Hmm.
comfortable. I
Right.
create structure
Hmm.
to support them.
Hmm.
I do these things in order to serve the others,
Hmm.
not I do these things for
Right.
it's not what makes me the
Hmm.
happiest.
Right.
But I have always taken care of these things. But I was always that person who, when others were like, oh, I can just hardly wait until I can have VP or, some big fancy credential title. And I'm like, I don't want the title. Give me the money and let me do the fun.
I know. People are always asking, like in forms where it says title, I'm like, and it won't let me leave it blank. And I think for folks who are, building teams, I think it's really important that you make sure that you've got a good mix of these, because your blueprint and your knowledge, your blueprint people are going to keep you on track. Your knowledge people are going to bring in the information that you need to do the tasks. I mean, your action and your nurturing people are going to think about, okay, who are we doing this for? And so that's, when you're building your teams, that's very important.
And what's great about the knowledge people is they will see the hole in the middle that you missed. They will know the stuff that you left out. So they're learning the intelligence, logic, self-mastery, technology, research and development, science, universal truths, expertise, competency, accuracy, and that big picture. So these are the ones when everybody else is like going, I got this idea. They've already like laid out a plan of action of all sorts of things to be done. And you're going, how the heck did they know?
I'm lost in the weeds, right?
Yeah.
Well, oh my gosh, Susan, this really has been absolutely delightful. But do you have any final thoughts you want to leave everyone with?
I just want to know that people are really connecting with people in a way that allows them to be the real them, be yourself, be authentically who you are, while still honoring who the person is in front of you. That is really what drew me to this. This is such a simple tool. And, as you read in my bio, the book I wrote long before I was introduced this is Simple Living. I've always been about, it doesn't have to be complicated. It needs to be simple in how we do things. That doesn't mean it's always easy.
Right.
But if you do it simply and honestly with people, you can really, really get a lot more out of life. And it doesn't have to be a hard process to get there.
I love it. Well, I can't wait until we have you on again, because this is such a fun conversation. So we will definitely do that. But until then, I'm Deb Creer. I've been having a delightful discussion with Susan K. Younger. And until next time, everyone have a great day.
Tune in for our next program for even more trends, best practices, and techniques for how to make your business a success. The Business Power Hour, hosted by Deb Creer, is proud to be part of the C-Suite Network.